Imagine a summer so foul, so toxic, that the very air in one of the world's greatest cities became a weapon. A smell so powerful it could knock a man unconscious, force Parliament to shut down, and change the course of history forever. This wasn't a monster from a horror film. This was London in the summer of 1858. This is the story of the Great Stink. London in the mid-19th century was the heart of a global empire, a bustling metropolis of over 2 million people. But beneath its grand facade, a deadly problem was festering. For centuries, the River Thames was London's lifeblood. It was a source of drinking water, a highway for trade, and a toilet. An open sewer. Every day, tons of untreated human waste, industrial chemicals from tanneries and slaughterhouses, and all the filth of a sprawling city flowed directly into the river. There were over 200,000 overflowing cesspits, bubbling beneath the city's homes. The job of emptying them fell to the night soil men, who worked under the cover of darkness, carting away the foul contents. But as London grew, this system collapsed. New flushing toilets, a symbol of modern convenience for the wealthy, only made the problem worse. They simply piped the waste directly into the city's aging sewers, which were originally designed for rainwater, and then straight into the Thames. The river transformed into a thick, brown, bubbling sludge. The Times newspaper described it as a Stygian pool, reeking with ineffable and unbearable horror. For the people living near its banks, life was a daily nightmare. The stench was a constant, oppressive presence that seeped into their homes, their food, their very clothes. They kept their windows shut tight, even in the sweltering heat, using cloths soaked in vinegar or lavender to try and mask the smell. But the smell wasn't just unpleasant. People believed it was deadly. This was the era of miasma theory, the idea that diseases like cholera were spread by bad air, or miasmas. And cholera was terrifyingly real. London had suffered devastating outbreaks in 1832, 1849, and again in 1854, killing tens of thousands. People looked at the foul, steaming river and saw the source of the deadly cloud they believed was poisoning them. They were wrong about the how, but they were tragically right about the what. The river was indeed the killer. Then came the summer of 1858. A heat wave of epic proportions settled over the city. The temperature soared, and the water level in the Thames dropped, exposing vast banks of thick, black, sun-baked sewage. The heat acted like an oven, cooking the waste and releasing a wave of stench so overpowering, so monumentally foul, that it became known as the Great Stink. The smell wasn't just along the river. It engulfed the entire city. It was said you could smell it miles away. Life ground to a halt. Business in the city slowed. People who could afford to fled to the countryside. But the stench reached its most powerful and symbolic victim right on the riverbank. The Houses of Parliament. Inside the newly built Palace of Westminster, the nation's politicians were literally under siege by the smell. The situation became unbearable. They tried dousing the curtains with chloride of lime, a disinfectant, to mask the odor. It didn't work. The stench was so potent that MPs were seen fleeing committee rooms, handkerchiefs pressed to their faces. One politician, Benjamin Disraeli, famously described the Thames as a hellish river. The government of Great Britain, the most powerful in the world, was brought to its knees by a bad smell. They debated moving Parliament out of London altogether. The Great Stink had turned from a public health crisis into a national embarrassment and a political emergency. The press had a field day. Cartoons filled the papers, most famously depicting Father Thames as a filthy skeleton, or showing a skeletal death rowing his boat on the putrid river. Greeting the scientist, Michael Faraday himself had written a powerful letter to the Times after dropping pieces of white paper into the river and watching them disappear in the opaque filth before they even sank an inch. Public outrage, fueled by the relentless stench and a satirical press, reached a boiling point. The government had to act in just 18 days, a remarkably short time for any government. Parliament passed an emergency bill. They tasked one man with an enormous responsibility: to fix the river and save the city. That man was Joseph Bazalgette, the chief engineer of the Metropolitan Board of Works. Bazalgette was a visionary, a man of incredible talent and foresight. He had already spent years developing a plan, but political infighting and a lack of funds had stopped him. Now, with the politicians gasping for fresh air, he was finally given the green light and the money to make it happen. Bazalget's plan was audacious in its scale and genius in its simplicity. Instead of trying to clean the Thames, he would stop the sewage from ever reaching it in the first place. He designed a massive, interconnected network of over 1,100 miles of new street sewers. These smaller sewers would feed into 82 miles of UK Brickland interceptor sewers, running parallel to the river. These interceptors, masterpieces of Victorian engineering, were designed to use gravity to carry the city's waste eastward, far beyond the main population center of London. The construction was a monumental undertaking. It required 380 million bricks, nearly 1 million cubic yards of concrete, and the excavation of millions of tons of earth. Tunnels were dug right through the heart of London, under roads, railways, and canals, all while the city continued to function above. To power the system, Bazalget built magnificent pumping stations at places like Abbey Mills and Crossness. These weren't just functional buildings. They were cathedrals of industry, ornate structures of colorful brickwork and cast iron, a testament to the pride and confidence of the era. They housed enormous steam-powered beam engines that would lift the sewage from the low-level sewers up to the outfalls, where it could finally be discharged into the Thames at high tide and carried out to sea. Bazalget was not just building for his time. He calculated the needs of a growing population and then doubled the diameter of the pipes, famously saying, "We're only going to do this once, and there's always the unforeseen." This incredible foresight meant his system continued to serve London for over 150 years, and it's still a core part of the city's infrastructure today. The impact was immediate and dramatic. By the mid-1860s, as the system came online, London began to change. The Great Stink was gone. The Thames slowly started to recover. Fish, which had disappeared from the Central River for decades, began to return. But the most important change was invisible. In 1866, another cholera outbreak hit London's East End. This time, however, something was different. The outbreak was almost entirely confined to an area that Bazalget's new sewer system had not yet reached. This provided crucial, life-saving evidence for the then controversial theory of a doctor named John Snow. Snow had argued years earlier that cholera was not spread by miasma, but by contaminated water. The Great Stink, and Bazalget's solution, tragically and triumphantly, proved him right. It was a turning point in public health, shifting the focus from bad air to clean water and proper sanitation. The Great Stink of 1858 was more than just a smelly summer. It was a catalyst. It forced a city to confront the filthy consequences of its own success. It sparked an engineering revolution that would be copied by cities all over the world, from Paris to Boston to Hamburg. The sewer system born from that foul summer saved countless lives, defeated cholera, and laid the foundations for the modern, sanitary city we know today. So the next time you turn on a tap for a clean glass of water, or flush a toilet without a second thought, remember the summer of 1858. Remember the overpowering stench, the fear of disease, and the incredible ingenuity of Joseph Bazalget. It's a shocking and pungent reminder that sometimes it takes a truly terrible smell to inspire a truly great idea. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into London's foulest moment interesting, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the strange corners of history. See you next time.